Can you believe that you're already done with this series? That is incredible. But one thing we do want to remind you of is even though this is the fourth session, it doesn't mean that the journey ends here. It's going to continue. And so we encourage you to take advantage of the resources that are available to you to continue this journey, whether you choose to work with integrated behavioral health, or maybe you choose to work with a wellness coach. So we're here to support you long term. Okay, so let's get into our topic today. But just as a quick reminder, here we were, your supporters, and we're so grateful to have been here alongside you on this journey. So let's remind ourselves one last time what this four-part series was all about. We wanted to understand emotional eating, so we took time to work on cultivating a healthy relationship with food. We talked about our patterns, so understanding our triggers, figuring out what makes us want to eat, where do we want to eat, why do we want to eat, what foods do we choose, and all of that is so that we can experience food freedom. So, in a little bit more detail, this was our program overview. Session one was about cultivating that healthy relationship with food, taking away labels, judgment labels like this food's good, that one's bad, that one's forbidden, this one's my guilty pleasure. So we're taking all of those things away and thinking of food in more of a neutral way. But we do know that some foods are more nourishing than others. And so our goal is to focus more on the nourishing foods. However, all foods can fit into a healthy lifestyle, so it's important for us to remember that. Session two was about triggers to eating and using cognitive behavioral therapy. So we recognized some common triggers. Some main ones that came out of our conversation were sadness, grief, boredom. Boredom's a big one. Maybe we use food as a reward for getting through a difficult situation or a long day. Celebrations are a huge time for using food. So triggers for eating don't necessarily have to be those intense, kind of sad emotions. They can be those happy emotions too. Cognitive behavioral therapy, just as a quick reminder, it tells us that there's a situation that happens, and then we have some thoughts about that situation. The thoughts determine how we feel. Our feelings determine how we behave or how we respond. If we can change our thoughts, since we can't change the situation, if we can change our thoughts, we can change everything that comes after that. We can change how we feel and how we behave. And so we spent some time working on reframing various thought distortions. So we named various thought distortions so we can become more aware of them and spent some time reframing. Session three was on improving body image, and also using some self-care techniques to manage our emotions. So with body image, we learned that there are a variety of ways where we can change how we feel about ourselves. We can see our body as a whole. Think of ourselves as a whole person. We're more than just our outward appearance. We're our personality. We're our ability to maybe crack jokes. We are that person who's caring and kind. We have different roles in this world. Maybe we're parents, grandparents, and maybe we're professionals. There are all sorts of things that make us who we are. So we're more than just how we look. So we wanted to appreciate what our body can do for us. And one of the activities that we did as a homework assignment was that Dear Body letter. And then today we're going to talk about intuitive eating and ongoing support for this journey. And we want to remember that behavior change is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not even going to happen after just a 4-week session. It really does take practice. We have to be consistent because we're building new pathways in our brain. We're rewiring our brain. So the only way we can rewire our brain is by doing a new behavior over and over and over until it starts to replace that old behavior. And during that process, we have to be patient with ourselves because our brain likes repetition. It likes to rely on the things that it knows. It likes to fall back on those old habits and patterns. So it's going to take a lot of time and patience to build new patterns and to forgive ourselves if, we go into autopilot and start doing the things we used to do before. So that's okay. We're not judging ourselves for that. The goal is progress, not perfection. We've learned that perfection can be the enemy of progress because we can get ourselves stuck. So instead, we want to dust off our knees and get back on that bike so that we can keep cruising forward. We have a group agreement where when we reflect on how things are going, we want to think about the highlights. We want to think about what has worked for us rather than I should have done this, could have done that, would have done this, because we know by now that those are thought distortions. So let's really dive into the session with a mindful minute. We had a chance to practice a few different mindful minutes or mindful moments, so that we can see if any of these new tools fit into our toolbox for self care. Today, we are going to try a mindful eating script. Now, mindful eating is a really powerful strategy to help us slow down and really savor our food. It can help us to feel more satisfied mentally and physically. And when we are more aware about what we are eating, our body actually responds to the food better. So we get more nutrients, more benefits out of those foods than if we're eating mindlessly. So, this is what we're going to do today. And if you have anything to eat near you, a little treat, maybe it's fruit, maybe it's a vegetable, it could be anything edible. So feel free to grab that as we practice this mindful eating script. So, to get us started, take a few moments to breathe and connect to your breath and your body. Feel your feet on the ground and notice your experience in this moment. With your awareness in the moment, notice any thoughts, sensations, or emotions you're experiencing. Now tune into the awareness or sensation that you have in your body of feeling hungry, thirsty, or maybe even feeling full. If you're going to eat or drink something right now, what is your body hungry for? What is it thirsty for? Just pay attention and notice with awareness the sensations that give you this information. Now bring your attention to the food item that you have and imagine that you're seeing it for the very first time. Observe it with curiosity. Pay attention and notice the color, the shape, the texture, the size. Is there anything else you notice, sense, or feel about this food? Now, imagine what it took for this food to get into your hands. Sunshine, water, time, processing, shipping. You may even choose to be aware of all of the people who are involved in cultivating and preparing this item of food. And maybe for that, you feel grateful. You may choose to bring in your own gratitude or spiritual blessing. And now place the food between your fingers and feel the texture, the temperature, the ridges. You may notice smoothness, stickiness. Again, notice if you have any thoughts, sensations, or emotions at this time. Continue to breathe and be fully present in this moment. Now take the piece of food and bring it towards your nose and smell it with your full awareness. Notice if you have any memories, sensations, or reactions in your body. Even before you eat it, you may notice that you begin to have a digestive response in your body just by noticing and smelling it. And with the full awareness of your hand moving towards your mouth, place the food into your mouth without chewing or swallowing it. Just allow it to sit in your mouth. Roll it around to different parts of your mouth and tongue and notice the flavor and the texture. Notice the physical sensations within your body, especially your mouth and your gut. Continue to breathe as you explore the sensation of having this item of food in your mouth. Now, next, take just one bite and notice the flavor. Notice the change of texture. And then very slowly begin to chew this food. And notice the parts of your mouth that are involved in chewing. Notice the sound and movement of chewing as you continue to notice the sensations and flavors. And when you're ready, swallow this food and notice the path it follows from your mouth and throat into your stomach. Notice the sensation and the taste that may linger in your mouth. And connect again to your body and your breath and notice your experience in this moment. Now, next, I invite you to pick up another piece of food and choose to eat it however you wish. Notice your choice and your experience. Notice how it's similar or different. And when you're ready, take some nice breaths and let's come back to our present moment. Now, this mindful activity, it might be the first time you've tried something like this. And of course, we did spend a few minutes with mindful eating for that one small piece of food. So you might be wondering, how would I incorporate something like this? Well, the goal of mindful eating is to really just set the stage for how we want the rest of our meal to go. We want to become more aware of what we're doing so that we can really slow down and savor. A lot of times, when we slow down and savor, we become satisfied much more quickly than if we ate without being aware. So you may choose to just take a mindful bite or two at the start of your meal, or maybe just take a mindful minute to reflect on what is the texture? What is the smell? How does it look? How does it taste when I put it into my mouth? When I take a bite, how does that taste change? How does it feel when I start to swallow it? And just asking yourself quick questions like that can help you to become more aware in the moment. And so, thank you for trying that activity. So, now let's check in with ourselves. What went well last week? What was challenging and what's on your mind today? And just to bring that reminder back, like I mentioned earlier, last time we talked about body image and self care. And one of the homework assignments we had was that letter to self or that Dear Body letter. So you may even choose to reflect on how that experience went for you, reflecting on what you would say to your body and what your body would say to you in return. Or maybe you chose to be more aware of some of the self talk, and maybe you want to treat yourself with kindness. So think about that. What went well? What was challenging? What's on your mind today? And when you're ready, we'll go ahead and dive into our topic. So, we are doing a review of making peace with food. So, think about your journey over these last few sessions. How would you describe your relationship with food now? What are you doing differently today than you did during session one? What is different, if anything? So think about that. How would you describe your relationship with food now versus when you started this series? some people find that they give themselves permission more so than they did before. So their self talk might have changed. Maybe they were really policing themselves before, and now they're saying, you know what, all foods can fit into a healthy lifestyle. Maybe we're more mindful. Maybe we're being very intentional about our portion sizes. Um, Maybe we're okay with leaving food on the plate. Maybe we're more aware of our triggers and we're finding alternatives to eating in those moments. So, what has changed since we started? That's something worth celebrating, even if the change is becoming more aware, because that awareness is really where it all starts. That is a really huge change. So, if you've become more aware of your patterns over the course of this series, then that's a huge win. So, let's do a little bit of review. We learned in session one about binge eating. We said that binge eating is triggered by an event or an occurrence. It occurs in private because a lot of times we feel shame, we feel embarrassment, guilt. And when we engage in binge eating, there tends to be this feeling of being out of our body, like we don't have control. The foods that we tend to select to binge on. Maybe if we're experiencing some emotional eating, those foods tend to be the ones we label as my guilty pleasure. This one's bad. This one's forbidden. So that was a big reason for why we were taking those labels away. Binge episodes end with extreme physical and emotional discomfort. We also talked about night eating syndrome, which is a type of binge eating. About in 100 people have night eating syndrome. This is where individuals often experience more anxiety, especially at night, and where 25% of all of the calories taken in occur after the last meal of the day. During night eating syndrome, a person wakes up feeling like they need to eat in order to go back to sleep. So unfortunately, this wakefulness, because of the strong desire to eat, it throws off the circadian rhythm, so people aren't getting as good of sleep. And then we talked about emotional eating triggers. So we mentioned some very common emotions that can cause us to want to eat. So things like sadness, anxiety, depression, worry, emptiness, loneliness, grief, even happiness, celebration. Because life is really made up of all sorts of emotions, and everything we do in our lives is related to emotions. Um, there's nothing wrong with having the emotional response, but it's all about being aware. When I feel a certain emotion, what do I want to do? So, if we remember our cognitive behavioral therapy and even that mindful thought log, what am I thinking? How does it make me feel? What does it make me want to do as a result? If I change my thoughts, I can change my feelings and change my behaviors. So now let's get into intuitive eating. Now, intuitive eating is known as the anti diet. And so think about it. How good would it feel to never have to diet again and still get results? That is freedom. That is true freedom. So, intuitive eating, the anti-diet, what it does is it removes the focus from the scale. We're no longer judging ourselves based on that number on the scale. We're working on sustainable health behaviors. What can I do that's really going to last lifelong? And then we're connecting to our needs. So, intuitive eating means we're becoming more in tune with our body's cues. So, from becoming more in tune, we can more easily recognize when we're hungry and when we're satisfied. And that way, we can decide how much we're going to eat to stay within a comfortable range when it comes to our hunger. When we focus too much on our body weight and our body size, it can lead us to feeling dissatisfied, and it can also lead to weight stigma. So we want to think about our bodies as something that can change. We're on this journey. But there is this beautiful quote that I really love that says that we can be a work in progress and we can be a vision of perfection at the same time. So there's so many things that are just so powerful and amazing about our body, things that are perfect about our body, like how it was designed. And so we can celebrate those things even while we're working on reaching the weight that we want to reach or reaching the health goals that we want to reach. It's really important for us to meet our emotional needs. So that's why we talk about self-care on this journey. Because when our needs are not met, then food becomes even more rewarding. More dopamine is released in our brain. And so, what we want to do is find other dopamine releasing activities that are non food related. Things like walking, hiking, socializing, playing games, other things that give us that sense of reward so that food doesn't always have to be that thing. When we are constantly dieting and restricting ourselves, we actually increase our risk for binge eating. So we want to have more of a balanced approach when it comes to our nutrition. And as we said before, studies have shown that when we do engage in emotional eating or binge eating, it's those forbidden foods or the guilty pleasures that are the things we tend to choose. So, taking away the food labels can actually help us to reduce the risk of binge eating in the future. For this whole entire journey, every single session, we said that the goal is progress, not perfection. And so intuitive eating has that same, we want to practice that same mindset. So let's go into the 10 principles of intuitive eating. So we said we're rejecting diets because our goal is to focus on sustainable health behaviors. We do want to honor our hunger. So when we're hungry, we want to eat. And when we eat, we want to give ourselves permission to have the foods that we want. So our lifestyle needs to include foods that are physically nourishing and emotionally pleasing. We also want to challenge the food police. So if we are telling ourselves, oh, you're bad for eating that, or other people are telling us that, we really want to challenge those thoughts and those comments. We also want to discover how much food should we take in to feel satisfied, but just right, not overly full, not uncomfortably hungry, but right at that sweet spot. So we want to discover the satisfaction factor. And that's going to take some time. And it's going to take for us to eat slowly because it does take time for our stomach to send signals to our brain to let us know that we're full. So we want to eat slowly and be intentional and figure out when am I really satisfied so I don't overdo it. And so we want to fill our fullness, satisfied but not stuffed. And when we are experiencing intense emotions, we want to cope with them with kindness. So it's okay. I mean, we're humans. We're supposed to feel emotions. That's what makes us who we are. And coping with kindness is going to help us to manage our emotions in a healthy way rather than in a way that makes us feel guilt. We want to respect our body. And part of respecting our body is making sure that we get good movement in our day, movement that's fun. Notice we did not say the word exercise because for some people, that word can be kind of triggering. Maybe exercise hasn't been something we enjoy, but movement, things that are fun. If we think of playtime, who doesn't like that? So, what is fun that gets us moving? And then honoring our health. So rather than saying, oh, I need to take this out of my diet, I need to take that out of my diet, instead we want to say, well, what can we add in? What are some healthy things we can add in? Can I add in more vegetables? Can I add in more fruits and whole grains? So those are the principles of intuitive eating. So let's dive into the hunger scale. We said that part of this process is honoring our hunger and knowing when we're satisfied. So the hunger scale is a way where we can check in with our body to figure out just how hungry or how full we are. So think about this. Do you check in with yourself regarding how hungry or how full you are before you eat? And if not, this might be a great time to give it a try. So, on the hunger scale, 1 means we're hangry, 10 means we are uncomfortably stuffed. So, a number 1 means we're so hungry, we want to eat anything and everything, even something we wouldn't normally eat. 10, we're so uncomfortable, we might feel sick. So, these areas in red, these are the danger zones. We want to stay away from these areas. We really want to stay in the green. So, the green is the safety zone, and a 4 is where we're a little bit hungry and know we'll be hungrier if we don't eat soon. And then a 7 is we are comfortably satisfied. Hunger is gone, and if we stop here, we're going to be okay. And we might not feel hungry for several more hours. So we really want to stay within that range. Our hunger is like a pendulum. So think of it swinging back and forth, just like this. Now, the farther we let it swing in one direction, the more likely we are to. So let's say that the farther we let it swing towards the hunger side, the more we're going to want to eat, and the more likely we're going to get to the uncomfortably full side. So it's safer to stay right here in the middle where we're not swinging too far in either direction. To really understand our hunger, and to use that hunger scale, we do need to make sure we recognize the difference between emotional and physical hunger. So, do you know when you're hungry? And how do you know? What does your body tell you? What does your body show you to let you know that you're hungry? So, if we think about some common signs of physical hunger, maybe we're feeling tired. Maybe our blood sugar is low. Maybe we're starting to feel irritable. Maybe our stomach is growling. These are all signs of physical hunger versus emotional hunger. So, emotional hunger is, I smell something delicious and now I want that exact thing. Or I see a commercial for a delicious food. Now I'm craving that specific food. So, emotional hunger tends it's for something very specific, but physical hunger comes on gradually, and we really just want to satisfy ourselves so we don't have hunger pains. So tune into your body. How does your body let you know that you are physically hungry? And then also think about whether you eat when you're just beginning to feel hungry or if you wait. So, do you let that hunger progress? And then do you know when you feel comfortably full or satisfied? If you've answered yes to this last one, then that's a good sign. Then you might feel like you have enough knowledge about your body to be able to use that hunger scale effectively. But if not, that's okay. This could be a work in progress. Also think about the scale. What is your relationship with the scale? Is the scale helping you or hurting you on this journey? I've had some people tell me that they were proud of themselves for all the changes they made, but that number on the scale hasn't changed. And so now they're feeling discouraged and they're wondering, what's the point? And so on this journey, it's really important to have some non scale victories, things that are not related to that number on the scale at all, where you can say, wow, that's a win. When we set our goals for our health, we want to make sure that these are goals around actions we can take, not outcomes. Weight is an outcome. We can't control weight. I wish we could, but we can control the behaviors that we decide to engage in to hopefully get us to weight loss. So I can't change the number on the scale, but what I can change is how I eat, how I move, how I manage my stress, what time I start to go to bed. So those are things that are in my control that can potentially lead to weight loss. But if I try to tell myself that my goal is I'm going to lose this number of pounds, our bodies are so complicated. Maybe there's something going on in our body, some sort of an illness, or maybe whether it's acute or chronic, um, or maybe our body, maybe there's a metabolism thing going on. Maybe we're taking certain medications that make it harder to lose weight. There are so many different factors that impact our weight. And so we don't want to feel guilty and be hard on ourselves when the scale doesn't reflect all that we're doing for our health. So if you find that stepping on the scale is actually hurting you, if it's demotivating, if it's discouraging, then give yourself permission to put the scale to the side because there are many different ways to measure our success on this journey. That's just one of them. Other ways, of course, are reflecting on all the improvements that you've made with your exercise, your healthy eating, your stress management, your sleep. Another thing that's important to make this journey sustainable for us is to get support. Support is really, really important. Um, so, so reaching out to the people around us who want to see us succeed, um, and sharing our journey with them, that can really help us to stay on track. So we do want to keep an open conversation going about our intentions related to our relationship with food. And we're going to share some examples of conversations that you might choose to have with those around you so you can get the support you need. Make sure to address how you feel about this journey and make sure that your goals and intentions are really clear. Sometimes it can be challenging to be on this journey, especially if other family members or friends are not doing this with you. But if people can understand what you're doing and why, then you know that they're going to be on your team. So here are some examples of how we can start a conversation with loved ones. So feel free to modify these however you need to so it meets your situation. Maybe you find that you don't need these scripts at all, and that's okay too. But these are just some examples to help with that conversation. So, what if you tell someone that you want to focus on intuitive eating and that person says, "Well, I don't get it. What is that? Can you explain it to me?" Here's an example of a response. Well, thank you for asking. It took me some time to figure it out too. But after reading the principles of intuitive eating, it made a lot of sense to me. It basically means that we're following our hunger cues as a guide to decide when, what, how much to eat, instead of following a diet. Whether you agree with it or not, I hope you'll respect my decision because I believe it's right for me. So sometimes just saying, you know what, this is something I'm doing for me, that can make a difference. So that people don't feel like you're trying to force them to make this change with you. But this is what I'm doing for me. And I hope that you'll respect that. Here's another example of a script around eating for comfort or emotional eating. So if someone says, well, why can't you stop? Why can't you stop with the emotional eating? Well, healing is complicated. And believe me, I wish it was that easy. Um, but eating for comfort became more intense for me for some reason. It's a lot of work, but I feel like I'm on the right path. So thank you for your patience and support. How about if you tell someone that you're not going to diet anymore? I'm done with dieting. Someone might say, well, what do you mean you're not dieting anymore? Don't you feel like you want to be healthy? Don't you want to lose weight? Of course I do. Of course I want to be healthy and feel good. But I've realized that just focusing so much on losing weight has actually kept me from losing weight. I take my health very seriously, but I don't want to be depending on the scale. Instead, I'm going to make an effort to listen to my body's needs. I want to enjoy my life more, not suffer through it, waiting for the number on the scale to validate it. And of course, feel free to modify these however you need, because you know your situation best. And then here's one more. How about recovery? Sometimes people really want to help us on this journey. So, what if someone says, well, how can I help your recovery? Do you want me to tell you when I think you're overeating? So you might respond with, absolutely not. No, I'm just joking. But you might say, well, thank you for wanting to support me. Um, a lot of this is going to have to be done on my own. And I prefer for you to not share those things with me because it will most likely make me feel uncomfortable and anxious during our meals together. So instead, please just check on me. Ask me about my day, how I'm feeling. That will help me get out of my head and into the present moment. So, getting the support we need does take communication, and it can be tough. It can be tough to start the conversations. But as people see that see that this journey is really important for you, then they'll rally behind you. And then there's professional support to help your recovery. So a licensed mental health clinician can address your current life concerns, stressors, and how childhood or past experiences have made an impact on the changes that you're working on. So that's really important because as we've learned, a lot of our behaviors around food, our thoughts around food, come from maybe how we grew up, maybe from caretakers, family members, friends, maybe from social media. So taking the time to really work on these things is really, really important so we don't relapse back into old ways. A registered dietitian can support you by providing information about food that will nourish your body and help you become more in touch with your hunger cues. So they have so much expertise around things like the hunger scale, emotional eating, um, and so they're a really valuable resource. And then support groups. Support groups can help with the healing process by feeling motivated. So you're surrounded by peers who are on a similar journey. Some of the support groups we have, I believe behavioral health has support groups, but also we have a general support group for behavior change called Vitalize. So if you would like to register for Vitalize and get support from peers while you make lifestyle changes together, feel free to call our Center for Healthy Living. And our number there is 808 432 2260. You can also call us if you'd like to work with a wellness coach. A wellness coach is someone who's really versed in making permanent behavior change. So, this person can help you with creating an individualized plan so that you can achieve your health and wellness goals. And then additional support may include inpatient or outpatient programs to help with your healing process. Because we did say that this is a healing journey, it's going to take some time. So feel free to talk to your primary care doctor about other options that may be out there. But now, to conclude our session, we are going to create an action plan. Think about how you're going to keep this journey going beyond this series. How are you going to continue with these lifestyle changes, with these new thought processes that you have, with continuing to work on emotional eating and continuing to adopt intuitive eating strategies? How are you going to keep this journey moving forward? So think about that. Think about something specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed that you can do. For example, you might say, I am going to start working with a wellness coach on my self care. Maybe that's something specific. Measurable. You can use up to 6 wellness coaching calls per calendar year. Some of you say, I am going to sign up for at least one wellness coaching call. Is that achievable? Will that fit into my schedule? Hopefully. And wellness coaches are available Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to about 6 p.m. So we hope that there is a time in there that would work for you. And then realistic, is this aligned with your bigger vision for your health? And timed. How long do you want to give yourself to reach this goal? So continue to make action plans beyond making peace with food. They are really powerful for continuing to keep us on that forward path. So now that you've brainstormed about your plan, what is it that you're going to do? What is one self-care goal that you're going to do this week using your smart skills? What is one self-care goal? And finally, just to review, today we talked about intuitive eating and ongoing support, and we also did a brief overview of the entire series. If you would like to continue to learn about this journey, feel free to take a screenshot or to take a picture of this slide. There are so many amazing resources out there. So, for example, this one here, there's this intuitive eating book that is super, super helpful. So, we recommend all of these things, um, but feel free to start wherever it feels comfortable for you and continue this journey. Also, we know that anytime we're making changes in our behaviors, the journey can be tough and life can get in the way. And so, having support for emotional wellness is super important so that we can stay focused with our behavior change, even when life does get in the way. There are a couple of apps that are offered to Kaiser Permanente members, where the premium version of these apps is available at no additional cost. So first we have the Calm app. The Calm app is the number one app for meditation and sleep. And there's also an emotional eating series that you can take within the Calm app. You can also learn how to be more mindful or even to meditate. And then headspace care. You can send texts back and forth to an emotional support coach who can help you to identify some wellness goals to help you to feel better. So, if you would like to get access to these apps, go to kp.org/self-care apps. If you need any additional support, we do have our Kaiser Permanente integrated behavioral health team. You can also go to kp.org/mental health or Department of Health Hawaii Cares Access Line. And then we do have some crisis numbers here for the National Suicide Hotline and the Crisis Text Line. Also, we have the Domestic Violence Hotline here and a couple websites. And then there are classes, programs, and wellness coaching services down below. So please, please feel free to take advantage of all the resources available to you. We encourage you to stay safe, and we are so thankful to you for taking this time to be part of this series. So we wish you all the very best on this journey. Mahalo.